And here we are back with part 2 now, and this is painting up the Panzer 1. So that's all been done, he says, and that was just using MRP Tank Grey. For me, that's the best Panzer Grey on the market. That was over a Mr. Surfacer 1500 black primer base, and now I'm just going to add the decals on. And there we are, applying it on. So that's onto a bed of Mr. Surface micro set. Wouldn't do very well on a bed of Mr. Surfacer. And these go on very nicely, if I'm honest. It's not a problem. I don't tend to get any of the issues that I get with other sort of models when I use Tamiya decals on tanks. It's absolutely fine. You can see some of the details showing through as well, where I've done the welds around the top of the turret. Just tracing down along the welds on the different areas. Haven't painted around the rubber rims on the road wheels yet either. And just lining up that number 9 now on the turret. Simple stuff. Straightforward. Press down with a cotton bud. And then use your setting solutions on top. I just went really with micro set and sol here, I think. I might have added in some sort of solver set or something like that, but nothing else. Just kept it nice and simple. This is all it needed to be. Now in this part, I was actually being talked through how to weather this model by my friend Dan Brooker. You may know him, the armour modeler. So it's very privileged to have that information laid down, sort of step by step, as he was presumably had nothing better to do. So I would send photos and he would suggest things to do. So that's kind of what I've done here. Now I then have followed that up on another model that will come out later on, and for that I just have kind of done everything that was done in this model, but so without any outside influence, just kind of trying to remind myself and doing it a bit of a different way, and it comes out okay. And I actually use some different techniques in that model, so we'll be seeing that further down the line. And for anyone interested, that is a Panzer 1C or VK603, is it? Or 601? Anyway, it's the little Panzer 1C that didn't do a hell of a lot. So for this, I think this is what I did up to getting on. I got on the dust effects, and then Dan helped me from there on. So this is what I would usually do, just dry step, very heavily thin down, wash it all over the bottom of the model where I want to do it. I think I said in the previous video, you got the motorbike and the sidecar out of shot there. We're going to bring that to you in a separate video. I was going to do it all part as one. Painted in the rubber rims, painted around the road wheels where the actual metal gets back to bare metal. Simple stuff, just using silver and rubber black. And a fine brush and a steady hand. So as always with this dust wash, I just go all the way over it. Trying to cover all the lower parts of the model where the actual dust would be on the real vehicle. And when we've got a good covering all the way around the model where we think the dust is going to be, and bear in mind this is Barbarossa, so this is obviously going to be absolutely caked in dust, as you see all the Barbarossa vehicles were, especially in German grey. I then go over with this European pigment dust and just tap it on, and then that soaks up that excess thinner, and then from there, once it dries, then I sort of knock that back a little bit. And here you can see me just tapping it on in place, and I just let that build up naturally, and then we sort of knock it back. I've done this in videos time and time again. So what's a bit different in this video is I'm going to show you some of the techniques that Dan taught me through, but for obvious reasons, because he taught me through them, I'm not going to go all in as if it was you know, step by step what I did, what he did. That's what the next model, this Panzer 1C, where I've kind of not made it my own by any means, just sort of understood it a little bit more in a way that I can actually explain it back to you. Whereas when I'm sort of doing it at the time being taught myself, it's very difficult to then use that and go on and try and explain it again. But you'll see the results in this one, and I'd like to think this model looks quite different to any that I've done before. Certainly, as soon as I finished it, I saw it on the bench and I thought, that looks like the models that I look at and am sort of aspiring to, and here it is on my bench. Obviously, you know, when you're talked through by someone who's very good at armor modeling, it's going to look pretty good. So then it's about not going, right, I'll just replicate that time, you know, just press copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. It's about trying to understand what has happened there, why it's good, and then go on and develop that. That's what I'm trying to do. Although inevitably, you know, you get a couple that are in the weathering stage, and then you've got to start from the beginning to get a model all the way back to the weathering stage. And by the time you get back there, you can't remember what you did. Bear in mind, again, this model was done a year ago. Well, not quite a year ago, probably about 9 months ago. So it's difficult to remember exactly what the process was, but of course, I can always ask again, can't I? So there we go, the dust is now on. Once that's dry, I get one of these wide brushes and I just sort of knock it back now. And this is what makes it look sensible. The way it is at the minute, it's very messy, very uncontrolled, and sort of all over the place. Whereas then now going back over with a stiff brush just knocks it back and gives it that deposited dust look, which is what what I'm going for. And you'll get a feel for it when you do this. You don't want to sort of knock back too much, but also you don't want to leave it all lumped up either. There's areas where you can leave it lumped up, which is sort of towards the lower bottom portion of the running gear. But of course the fronts of the wheels that would be spinning at quite a high pace, well, it's going to fling off of them, but it's going to be down in the center. And again, this is trying to replicate a dry dust deposit, not a wet mud. And that was a bit of a blow I did there off camera. You can also use an airbrush and that will knock some of it back, and you can see it instantly looks so much better. Now I've got the track on, that's just been painted black, like rubber black, and it has the ammo track wash just gone over it. So next up, it's time to sort of give the tracks a bit of a wash as well with the dust. So this is heavily thinned now, but with plenty of pigment in it. It's just a very thin wash to run into those recesses and start sort of clumping up in the details. I think this is where we start to get the influence from Dan coming in, and you'll start to see it lifts a little bit because he's obviously telling me, he's seeing it and he's going, try this, try that, do this, do that. Very useful. So tracks are now tied in with the dust effects. We can see now that it's starting to look quite good. Now, to be honest with you, I'd usually start to think about leaving it here. Maybe do a little pin wash in some of the panel lines, and that would be it for me. So we do lift this a little bit. However, it's not completely documented because, again, I was sort of running through it quite quickly. But I'm just trying to sort of highlight points here that I think need sorting out. And we're going to start trying to pick some of these streaks out now and blend some of the dust in where it's all a bit thick. And that helps to give a kind of more natural feel to it. And you can see how we've got the basic elements here, but we can go so much more further than this. So this is just a cocktail stick, a cotton bud with a little bit of thinners on it, and I'm just kind of using that just to, with a little bit more friction, just to remove some of the heavier spots that I'm not happy with. And then in hindsight, once this model was finished, I did actually look over it and I thought it looks great, but there are quite a lot of heavy like deposits around, which do give it a bit of a, they look out of place. So that's another thing I could have gone back over and fixed. But what you can see is the case is we've got not much happening up on the top deck. And this is often what happens to my models. I don't sort of finish those areas off. You can see now around the back where there's a nice lot of interest. We've got the dust on, But it's time to sort of take that on now to the next level, and funny enough, the way we do that is with a little bit more dust, but we're going to actually airbrush on some Tamiya colours just to kind of tie it in from the bottom of the track right to the top of the turret, and that will help with where we haven't got much going on the top deck. You can see the dust deposits are very nice. It's a really simple technique, not much to it, a couple of products, and just sort of doing it in the right way. I like the tracks as well, so this is sort of rubber black with the ammo track wash straight over it. I'm starting to like the kind of metal feel that gives. And knock it back now with some satin, just to flatten it off a little bit. And then we're going to make up some dust, sort of blending with flat earth and buff. And then I think we start with sort of buff darkened with flat earth, and then we lighten it up to buff. And just going over with the airbrush, just misting it on. This is the first of the suggestions. It's important to note here that it's less is more. So the misting on, this is an effect you shouldn't really be able to see that well. It sort of does a job. If you can see it, you've probably gone too far. So you want to build, this is so heavily finned, it must be 90% thinners. I might have actually used Tamiya X20A here as well, because the amount of thinner that's in it, I didn't really want to put that much lacquer thinner all over the model. Be asking for trouble. We're starting to get some natural high points as well, and sort of sheen around the doors and crew doors. And I must stress, there's a lot of stuff I do off camera here, which gives a really nice effect, and I just try and film a little bit just to show you what I was doing. But there were a lot of techniques that went into this. And it shows come the end. And there you can see now with that flattening, the paint is flat as well. It's just totally muted the model, which is what we want in a dusty effect. So now it's about a really heavily thinned dust wash now to try and capture some of those recessed details in the tracks, and trying to get it to sit in the recesses of the track and pull up, and then once it dries off it looks like it's deposited dust again within the segments of the track that have recesses in it. It's all very logical, makes a lot of sense. And then once that's dried, it's time to go on to the upper deck now and add in some more dust. So again, massively thinned. Ratios here are sort of 95% thinners. It's like coloured water, think of it like that, using the oil thinners for the enamel washes. And again, it's just building that up in layers and layers and layers and layers. That's all I was doing. And drying it off with the hairdryer, which I think I'm doing now out of shot. Can't quite see it, but you can see some of the liquid moving. And then as it dries back, working it again, adding a little bit more, moving it around until it starts to look natural and how you want it. Add in some natural streaks. And that all helps to sell the effect. And then the trusty old cotton bud again. Some of these are dry, some of these have got a bit of thinner on them. And again, just moving it where you want it to go and before it's completely hardened off or dried off. Now you can see that brush just made all the difference then, brushing that extra deposit off that we just don't want, and then you've got a nice dusty finish. And I don't tend to do a lot of work around the turret, and it shows, but here we are. And you can see the collection of dust around those raised bolt heads. It's a really nice touch. The streaks down that classic sort of sloping armour you got at the front of the Panzer 1, which is just crying out for it. I've also touched up the wood now, and that is just over the XF860 or whatever you want, any sort of beige colour. You just put a streak of oil paint over a dark brown oil paint over it. Over to the back deck again, and we've got now a dark wash, and we're picking up panel lines, I believe, just to add a bit of definition. Again, super thin, not a lot to it, just enough to just kind of now give emphasis to the door rather than it all blended in like a dusty mess. And we're back down to the running gear, so now we're going to add on some grease deposits and some oil stains and runs like you get on all sort of running gear. Again, just helps make it pop. Back around to the top deck again, just a little bit more work, just some random spots now of dust deposits. You also see now towards the left hand side this circular hatch. I've put some oil and fuel stains around there and just gone on around and done the similar thing all over it, down around the jack block, picked out some of the tools as well. And all of this is what just adds to the finer details. And now we come back with a graphite pencil, and we just make a point of going around and picking up any of the sort of high points. I think I showed it in the previous clip, but also we've done deposits around the base of the turret there, taken the turret off. Again, never think about this on any of the models I've done. So heavy deposits around where the turret is. And if you take the turret off and put it around the sort of turret ring, when you then put it back on, you see the effect. It's very good. Again, high points there where there'd be wear, anywhere where there'd be wear for high sort of traffic from the crew. Rims of doors, all that sort of thing. Door handles, all of that has been emphasized with heavier washes, as you can see. The main color that made all the difference was an oil paint I went and got, and that is sepia. Now, I'm sure a lot of you knew that little magic trick, but I tell you what, that's one to have in your arsenal. So all of these dark brown washes are generally different sort of thinned amounts of sepia oil, just put in and around all these details. And you can see it's looking really good. This is the only point that I personally don't like, but everyone I've shown it to has said it looks exactly what it's meant to look like, but it didn't sell it to me. But Dan was happy, all my other friends that I've shown are happy, and everyone seems to think this looks like heat stains on the exhaust. So this is what I did. So we've got a very dark sort of rusty orange colour, and just putting it in the middle of this mesh to give kind of burnt on heat stains. And then just back with the graphite pencil once that's in the right place, and just kind of put it back to metal as if it's sort of burnt back, and then darken off that centre as well. There we go. A little bit of a sort of speed run route through this one, but like I said, we're going to revisit this in a little bit more detail in a future build. But hopefully there's some techniques in here that you'll find very useful. Going over the tools and the tracks, all with those graphite pencils. And I say a graphite pencil, it's literally a pencil, an HB pencil, nothing special to it. But here we are. So some images now to show you. I was hoping to put this one on a base, but I never got around to it. But that's there's time there in the future, so I will get that sorted. So as always, if you like what you see, do let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Thanks again to Dan Brooker, DB Scale Models, for helping me through this one. Very talented modeler, so go and check him out on all of the social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, he's on all of them. And as always, thanks for watching. If you want to support the channel, there's some links down below in the description how you can do that. And as always, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.